Your plans change and your child melts down. It's not defiance, it's anxiety in disguise. Kids being rigid about changing plans seems to be something that all parents are struggling with. They often think it's defiance, but really it's stress from an overactivated nervous system that's craving predictability. Why does change feel hard for some kids? And for those of us that have more than one kid, we know what it's like when you have a kid who's a little more flexible. Kids crave that predictability. Their nervous system equates routine with safety. When plans shift, it sends a signal to the brain that says danger. And your amygdala, that's your fear center, takes over. Your prefrontal cortex that has logic and problem solving, it goes offline. It's literally designed to do that. So, what happens? We see meltdowns, we see just shutdowns, irritability, and that's just the brain's way of saying it's too much. And I know it can be frustrating because I have one kid who's easy and one kid who's not. And I promise you that the things we're going to talk about here today are going to make it easier because I get to have now a young adult or two young adult kids, and I can see all those lessons and things I'm doing really helped. So we often misinterpret these behaviors as manipulation or a need for control. It's really just dysregulation. Often talk about a stress cup, and I think it's relatable for all of us that you have to really imagine your child's nervous system as a cup. Every little thing drips in there. Schoolwork, every transition, hunger, frustration, annoying kid at high school, break up with a boyfriend or girlfriend. By late afternoon, their cup is full. And so one last little drop spills them over. Oh, we're not going to have your favorite dinner tonight, or oh, I forgot. We got to go to Boy Scouts or whatever's going on. And so it's not the change, it's the overflow of all the things that have built up during the day. And so when we teach kids to empty their stress cups regularly, we have to role model that too. Small changes literally go from being explosions to hopefully minor irritations that kids have these skills to learn to manage. Why really is this happening? Number one, we know that the brain is in survivor mode. The amygdala hijacks logic, problem solving, it shuts off. So, all that good thinking, once you're in the red, forget about it. It's designed to find the danger. Now you're understanding. Could be that transition, it could be other things. So then we have our stress load overflow. Daily stress builds up silently in the nervous system. And it just is like, sorry, can't do it. Right. And we see this more with kids, our kids at home. It's a safer place. Right. And some kids dysregulate with every transition. So we have to think about that. Another reason is over and under stimulation of the brain. So our neurodivergent brains, kids with clinical disorders, they're just more prone to having a brain that is really struggling with regulation. They're constantly sensitive to their environments. These are kids that feel things more strongly, sensory things, words, touch. Sometimes these sensory sensitivities or feeling things more strongly can really be used to our advantage. I know that I do that a lot with the families over the years that I've worked with one on one. And then overall, just a nervous system sensitivity. A regulated brain sees change, a dysregulated brain sees danger. And this is why kids can't really always go with the flow. Years ago, I worked with a woman named Maria with her daughter, Molly, and Molly just seemed to have meltdowns. Every weekend, she was like dreading spending time with Mols. And because she was taking too long on errands or those plans changed, she would see these meltdowns. And Molly was 11 at this point. So Maria was like, what is going on? It doesn't happen with any other kid. What happened? And so we really tried to number one, repair this relationship and obviously get Maria to regulate first. But What started to happen is she started previewing things with her. So, number one, she started regulating herself. And number two, she started previewing and letting her know what was happening. Within a short amount of time, the explosions stopped. Part of the problem was Maria was like, well, she's 11 years old. Why do I have to preview? But for Miles, it was safety, and it created that's the secret. It was predictability. And predictability leads to more regulation. And so it just became part of what they did, and they broke the conflict cycle by previewing things. Dysregulation over when plans change looks different at every age. We're much more tolerant of our preschoolers and toddlers. So you can see it when you're trying to leave the park. That was always fun. And then I had one kid who was like, I'm done. It's time to go. I need my nap. So everyone has their own developmental spectrum. It's just when we feel it and we have to help our kids regulate, we get irritated by it. But some kids need more attention because their nervous system is feeling things too strongly. Elementary kids, you might see tears, tweens, a lot of arguing. They start doing things like saying, you ruined everything. Teens saying, I don't care, or I hate you. But all across all ages, it's the same reaction. It's a nervous system reaction with a different expression. And our own, as I said, developmental expectations like Maria, well, they should just outgrow it. I shouldn't have to do anything. Well, if your cup is full, you need support. And so cognitive flexibility is an incredibly important thing that I think none of us talk enough about. It's that ability to adapt. And when we have kids who have cognitive flexibility, our own kids, we really admire it and love it, right? These are those easy kids. And it's really a high level brain skill and it develops later, but it requires one thing. What am I going to say, everybody? Regulation, nervous system regulation. So it relies on a calm, regulated nervous system. This is why kids with a trauma background, kids with neurodivergence, kids that have more sensitive nervous systems to begin with are more reactive and inflexible when plans change. Again, you can be saying, I'm providing a calm home, but there's a lot of other factors that fill that cup. When the stress system is constantly on, you're jacked up, as I always like to say, you're in the red, flexibility circuits never get practice. And they need to practice flexibility. Our kids, like just like our younger kids, we have tolerance because we know they're learning. But calm, repetition, co regulation actually build those neural pathways, even for our kids who've experienced trauma, which sadly no kid should be experiencing trauma, but it is a reality of what is happening. And we're broadening our understanding of trauma, and it's held in the body. That's the nervous system. So again, we can build these skills in kids in a regulated nervous system. Where do parents go wrong? One, they talk too much. Start yapping. The brain can't hear when somebody's dysregulated. We use consequences when the brain is in survival mode. Logic doesn't land on dysregulation. It just doesn't make sense for the brain. It's going to repel it. We rush in and lecture instead of modeling calm. Again, zipping it, being quiet, pausing, lending that calm, being that emotional anchor is going to get you a lot faster than anything coming out of your mouthpiece. Okay. And this is coming from Dr. Rowe, the Italian girl who is always yapping. And it's hard. I think at times it's harder to be quiet because you want to rescue. Don't do it. So every time we push when the brain is in red, the stress cup fills up even further. So less talking, more regulating, and just being a calm presence. It really works. And we don't have to rescue. What do we do for kids when they are freaking out all the time when plans change? So we preview and we create predictability. We give gentle warnings. Maybe we have visual schedules, countdowns, transition reminders, and obviously in a calm tone. So, number two, we're going to co regulate through change. When plans change, you can name it and you can say, I didn't expect that either. Let's take a breath together. How many times have like you gone to the store and you thought you're running in someplace and you have to wait in line for 45 minutes? That stresses me out. And I'll turn to my kid and be like, "Oh, I got to breathe through this." Because, my kids know I have no patience for lines and things like that. But sometimes you just got to deal with it. And it's a great example. So if you need more support on co regulation, please go back and listen or watch to the episode How to Calm Your Child Without Saying a Word. It's one of my most popular episodes. And there's a reason why. We need to know how to do it. Okay, so we're going to practice flexibility in small doses. I want you to understand kids need to learn how to manage stress. We cannot avoid stress. Yes, I get my groceries delivered, but I'm an adult. But so what can you do? So practice switching a dinner seat table or a route home or just a different way of doing something. And do this when your kid is more regulated and you're going to rehearse calm transitions. All of these things build up. We don't practice in dysregulation. And the more regulated the nervous system is, what's going to happen, peeps? Going to be more regulated. More dysregulated those experiences are, if you're living in co-dysregulation, your child's going to show that. So always anchor with routine, daily rituals around bedtime, morning check-in. Familiarity lowers baseline stress. Now, some kids need a lot of routine and structure, and that's okay. And this might be hard for my neurodivergent parents, but usually when they embrace it themselves, they're like, "Oh, it feels good to me." And then they're not as dysregulated. We really have to build neuroplasticity. That's that cognitive flexibility. And just know that every time your child calms down after a change, your brain is rewiring and creating new flexible pathways. So instead of thinking, "Oh, they're so dysregulated every time plans change," you have to switch your thinking and say, "Oh, they just did that. They're rewiring." So we're lowering that stress cup and we're training for resilience because we need our kids to be resilient because they're not always going to be living in our nest. And so this is how we do it. We regulate, we give safe opportunities to learn how to deal with change and stop thinking my child is rigid. Instead, start thinking my kids needs a little more safety and regulation before they can adapt because everybody can learn this. And predictability isn't coddling, it's brain scaffolding. It is what they need. Why wouldn't we give it to them? I mean, we're not going to deny a diabetic insulin, but we have to really start thinking about regulation first, flexibility second. We can't demand it to happen because their sibling can do it, or you can do it, or you never were like that. What are you going to do this week? You're going to pick one transition your child is struggling. Maybe it's getting off your device or, leaving the house or whatever it is, or you had to change the dinner time and you're going to really create a 5-minute transition preview. You're going to do a micro reset before you do it. Stretch, breath, sip of water, cold on the back of the neck, and then just pay attention to what happens. Always regulate before redirecting or teaching because it's a waste of time. So, change isn't the enemy for your kid. It's the dysregulation of their nervous system that is causing them to freak out when plans change. And we just have to help them learn how to be more resilient during these times because that's the foundation of good mental health is resilience, which comes through regulation. If you want more science-backed strategies right into your inbox so that you can help yourself find calm in these tough times or your child, then you are going to go to grab my Dysregulation Insider. It's free. And you go to drroseann.com/newsletter. And I really hope that these things are changing your mind. I'm redefining parenting by putting the nervous system first. And I just need you to take action on it.
Want more insights and solutions? Well, subscribe to our Dysregulation Insider and it will show up in your inbox every week.